Jennifer. Welcome to Hear Her Hands, a podcast where I talk about my many crafty endeavors and the things, the ways, and strategies I use to do all my crafts with an energy limiting disability. Here you will hear all about my family, including lots of animal cameos in my partner, probably. So to address the small gray elephant schnauzer in the room. This is my 13-year-old miniature schnauzer. And he had surgery last week, so that's why he's wearing a cone. He's doing so much better now. So, I'm a deaf creative and activist, and my work focuses on disability history, rights, and politics, and their intersection with body and thought politics. Here, I would like to focus a little bit more on my hobbies and the fun things that bring joy to my life, and also address various accessibility tools I use in my knitting and crafting. So I'm originally from Colorado, which is why I have a wall hanging, you can only see part of behind me, of horseshoe frocks that my mom made for me. And I currently reside in Baltimore City with my partner and 3 miniature schnauzers and 2 black house panthers. This is one of the other ones. This is our middle schnauzer. I'm starting my first ever podcast. I've never done anything like this before, specifically because I'm deaf. So my primary language is American Sign Language, and honestly, I think and speak better in that language. But that's just who I am, right? That's my language. That's my personality, and that's who I am. So I'm going to speak. But I wanted to make sure you knew that I'm deaf. So, I've spent my whole life speaking. I took speech therapy all through school, but there are some letters and some words that I've never been able to hear in spite of, wearing hearing aids and all the many, many years of practice. If I mispronounce something, please let me know. Let me know how I'm supposed to be pronouncing a thing. But please be kind about it, because honestly, I don't know. A lot of the words I've learned in my life are from reading, just because I can't hear, right? Alright, so there's only so much I can do with what I hear. I'll try so incredibly hard to say things correctly. But anyway, this is a knitting and creative podcast, so let's get started, right? So I think we're going to start with my favorite finished objects first. Or I guess just a couple of them. I've done so many things already this year. Some of the things I've done include, so I did a test knit in April or May from ENSQ Knits. I did the Zephyr sweater. I did mine in Knit Picks Cotton in the color Surf and Planetarium. And my first go around was a little shaky. I totally messed up. I ordered a new circular needle, and somehow I got 2 whole sizes up. So I ended up starting with a 6mm, and I'll include some pictures, but I was very confused as to why it was so slouchy and baggy on me, and it wasn't looking anything like the pictures. And then my dear friends, my weekly knitting call, helped me figure out that I had a way off needle size. Okay. So I'm back after settling everybody down for a minute. Alright, so I was talking about my first test knit for Julia Pyro, which is ENSQ Knits. It was really cool because they're the sweater, even though initially I knit it on way too big of a gauge because I ended up with the wrong needle. I ordered the correct needle size, and the wrong needle size was sent in the container. and it was even labeled. The only thing that was labeled correctly was the actual needle itself. So, yes. So the Zephyr sweater, the pattern is $5 EU, which I don't know what the conversion rate is. And for the yarn, I used 5 skeins of Knit Picks Cotton in Surf, and then 2 skeins of the Planetarium. And each of those skeins was $5.29. And I don't do math. We'll do math next podcast. Yeah, so that was 7 balls total, and it turned out really cute. Then my next finished knit that I really like and will be sending off very soon, so I'm going to show it now, was it's hidden. There we go. Okay. Was the emotional support chicken. So, everybody and their mother knit this summer. This is by Annette Corsino, or the Knitting Tree LA. I got both patterns because I knit and crochet, and I started trying the crochet one. And once I figured out the tail, I found the knitting was a lot easier for me personally. So I knit this holding together nice easy rainbow single soft gradient, and a strand of Stucco Dream acrylic in white. So that's how you get the melt effect. And I think it's a smaller gauge. I believe this might be a DK. It's not worsted. I didn't get up to worsted. But I thought the rainbow was adorable, and I'm excited. I have another full ball of the rainbow left, and I'm definitely knitting another. So the pattern was $6.50 on Ravelry, and I'm only going to count the knitting pattern. So I used maybe a half skein of the Nicey Rainbow Singles at $6.09, and 1 skein of the Stucco Dream for $6.75. And then the next thing, I completed. Oops. My socks, there they are. Alright. The next thing I completed was I joined in on Sock Week with Knitty Natty. And I knit, these are just a vanilla shorty sock. They are knit up in Barocco comfort sock in the shade Beach House, which is funny because it's a striping, self-patterning. And then I used Summerlee's book, The Sock Project, to figure out how to knit these. And I definitely had to look things up because I still need to visually see what's going on, see how to do things. But I managed to knit both socks within the week. So the book was $10.99, and I got the hard copy, and then the yarn was $14. And then for another knit along I did was I joined in the Tulsa Time knit along with Rebecca Crow of the Crayabea, and I knit the Tulsa Tank, the vast version, also in Knit Picks Cotton in the color Surf because I had plenty left over. And this one I did a folded hem, and I did a folded neckband, and then for the arms I did, what was it called? The crocheted scallop edge that I found on Very Pink Knits. But as far as the tank, I really enjoyed knitting it, but this is the first time I ever knit anything bottom up, just didn't quite have the fit I was going for. Like, I prefer a really drapey, like very positive ease, kind of longish tank, so that it can be worn with leggings and be like still somewhat modest. But I'd never ever knit anything bottom up, so I didn't quite know what I was getting into. It is pretty long. It just doesn't have the ease I wanted, so I am probably going to unravel it. And also the other thing is I re-knit the neck like 3 times. And even then, like, I get over my head, but it's barely. So I think I'm going to knit the V-neck version next time. Because there will be more ease in here. It'll actually fit. And then also it won't be so like up on my neck, right? But I think it's a cute shirt. I will put in some B-roll, or at least a picture of me wearing it. But yeah, so I've completed that one, and then the pattern for the toasted tank was $9.60, and I got a 20% discount because I applied for the test knit. And then the Kotlin, I used about 4 balls at $5.29 each ball. So in addition to that, I'm also a sewist and a quilter. And there are a whole bunch of things I've made, like sewing wise, this summer. And the quilt I'm currently working on is still in pieces because there are 10 blocks, and I'm on the 10th one right now, and it's a little bit more complicated. And then there's a bunch of smaller blocks that I have to do after that. So here are some of the other ones I have completed. The first sewing bag project I did was the convertible crossbody bag from So Can She, who this is. It's a free pattern on her blog, and the bag is in Rifle Paper Company's Curio Book Club fabric in navy and metallic. And I got 3 yards of this, and I still have tons. So there will be more book club bags in the future. And then this is lined with just a piece of a remnant of like rose gold satin. And there is a pocket. There's a very small pocket. There is a key ring holder. And also I bought the strap off Amazon because I really wanted something that's very like adjustable. So this is a like seatbelt style strap. I love this bag. I use it tons. It's like a great project bag. Okay. And then next I made the DIY cosmetic case, also from So Can She, in the Curio Book Club fabric. So this one is like a little squarish bag, and it has these, like, the pattern includes snaps to snap this down, to like squish it down, because it's a cosmetic bag, but I'm using it as a project bag, so I haven't bothered. And I have also lined it in the same like burgundy satin with a navy blue zipper and a piece of seafoam green felt for the little tag that she includes in the pattern. And then I did another one. Where'd that one go? Oh no, did I drop it? Oh, here it is. I made a boxy zipper pouch, which I might be able to put a sock in here. It's like a teeny little thing, but it's really fun and really complicated. This is also lined in the burgundy satin remnants that I have. It doesn't have any pockets or anything. It has little tabs. I think technically these are pockets, but oh my god, what can you put in there? I guess ocean. But this was fun. This was a really fun little project. I think these will be really cute, really good gifts to give. That is all of my personal project bags I made for myself. And then, well, oh no, I did drop it. Okay, hold on. Okay, so I got it back up. So I made this giant bag for a friend of mine who is a quilter, but she hand quilts all her quilts, and I am not interested in doing that. I generally take them to be long arm quilted. So this friend is also a black cat owned human like me, and we have a lot of very similar like color preferences. So I saw this really fun cat silhouette fabric at Joann's, and I thought it would be a really cool bag. And also, my mother is a hand quilter, and what she always does is she carries her quilts in like a similarly sized tote bag. So I think it'll be a good thing to have for her to like take her quilts with her if she wants to. It's very simple. It's just the fabric, a bit of foam, and then I like folded it over and quilted the fabric on my machine. And I used some leftovers from one of my other quilts for the straps. I also got this pattern off So Can She, which is where I find apparently a lot of my bag patterns. So this is called the Easy Big Tote Bag, and it really was an easy project. And then finally, for the last one, here we go. I sewed this bag up to keep all of our doggy things in our car. We do agility and dog sports. And since we live in the city, it's a terrible idea to keep stuff in your car, and we found that out the hard way by having no stuff in our car and still having our car broken into. So this is for just the ease of grabbing and going when you go to agility and go to whatever else. Like, what I love about this bag, it is called the Craft Project bag, which is not why I made it, but like it's nice because you can put treats, you can put bottles, you can put poop bag, you can put your knitting needles. It only has 2 pockets on the inside, but that's because I didn't think that far ahead. And it also has a drawstring, which is cool. And that keeps all your stuff in it. The sewist, the blogger, said she used this bag when she had to go to the hospital with her kids. And seeing as I've been in the hospital a couple times myself, I feel like this would be really useful to like put all your one knitting project and like pure bamboo knitting needles and like tiny little scissors, things like that in, because it would still get to security fairly easily, I think. But I just remember the last time I had to go in and I sat in the ER for 4 hours and it was so late, and it would be helpful to have something like this because I would have a water bottle in here, and then my partner would have to drink Pepsi, because it's the only thing that they had stocked in the soda machine or whatever, right? So, oh yeah, so this bag is in Schnauzer material. So this is Schnauzers in Cherry Blossoms, I believe, by Spoonflower. And like I got exactly 1 yard of fabric, and honestly I think I did a really good job. Like I used every bit of it, and also I did a little bit of bias tape binding with the gray bias tape to match the dogs. Right? That's my last bag. a friend, as for the width that's been on the needle the longest, I have the Perry Polo by, oops, oh no, hold on, I lost a couple of stitches on the end of that. So do as I say, not as I do, and use your needle numbers, okay? Alright, so this is the Perry Polo by Alex Ingalls, and I joined it as a test knit when I was going to knit it for my partner, who is 6'6". What I did not realize was that knitting something for someone of that height would be stockinette for forever. And I had to drop out of the test knit because I don't knit that fast. Apparently I really don't knit fast when it's that long. So whoops. But I'm still working on it. It's mostly just, it's a mosaic knitting pattern. I am knitting this up in Yarn Art Jeans in the color lime and brown. And the other thing I didn't think about was that lime and brown, it looks like an avocado. Oops. But he thinks it's funny and he will be thrilled to wear it. So that's good. This is my current stockinette knitting project for my weekly knit and chat with my friends. Because if I'm talking or if I'm listening, I can't do anything harder than stockinette, to be honest. But yeah, so the pattern of the Perry Polo is $8, and then Yarn Art Jeans is like, the lime green is $5.20. So I have so far used 2 balls of that, $5.20 twine each, and I've used 2 balls of brown. Sort of started 2 balls of brown anyway. And each of those is $5.30. And I have a long ways to go. I have lots more yarn. But yeah. Then my next knit is, I think it's really, it'll be a good transitional piece. Where did I put it? Oh, okay, well, whoops. Note to self, don't put them behind you again. So this is also a test knit. This is for yarn over everything, and this is called the Stubble Field Sweater, and I only have this much of the front panel, but it is I'm knitting the Stubble Field Sweater inside one. It's a boxy sweater that features broken rib panels on either side, which is this, and a stockinette center panel, and then a 1x1 rib for the hem and the cuffs. So the short sleeve version has a small rib cuff, and then the long sleeve version carries the broken rib down to the wrist, and then I believe there's a rib cuff, but I guess I'll find out. And I am knitting this in Lion Brand Kobu in the color Admiral, which is why I think it'll be a good transitional piece, because I'm going to knit the long sleeve, and since it's a really boxy long sleeve sweater, it'll be good for indoors, it'll be good for outdoors in the fall, because Baltimore is not particularly cool in the fall. We don't really get our cool weather until November, December if we're lucky. But I'm already planning on adding a little bit of length to it, which is why I'm still going on this part. I have a ways to go. Because I personally like my behind covered, and I really don't like cropped things. So we'll be doing a little more of that for a while longer. Then finally, I'm testing the beachside cardigan, which is this one. There it is. knitting the mock Kibo version for Knits by Lillian, which is a really pretty, like, lacy mock Kibo, and the hem is a really nice 2x2 red. This is knit on a 6mm needle, or a size 10, and I don't think that's the recommended needle size. I'm a super tight knitter, and I always got at least a half the needle size, so that would mean that it's like a 5.5mm. That's the like required suggested needle size. But yeah, I'm knitting this cardigan in Patton's classic wool worsted in the color Seafoam. Oh yeah, so the other thing about this is why I'm knitting in Seafoam. So last year I did my color analysis with Creative Colorful, and I am a soft summer, so you can kind of see I wear a lot of blue. I always have kind of what's close to my seasonal colors as far as like what things I liked and what things I wore, but I've definitely like gravitated more for softer, muted, grayed colors now, and that's why I'm doing Seafoam, because I think this is a good soft summer color. And this yarn is pretty easy to get, so I've never done a full wool, but I got this off of Amazon in a 5-skein set for $35 for the whole 5 skeins. And also, I have found, like, always found that this stuff is really green, not quite mint, more like dusty. It's more dusty, like more grayish than mint is. It's a really big staple in my wardrobe, like one of my very, very favorite mint season jackets is mineral green. So I am currently knitting the body, and again, because I don't like things short, like honestly, I think everybody else has already started some of the shaping on this, and I want it longer, so I've got a ways to go. I'm at least doing 2 to 4 more repeats of the like waist pattern, right? Before I can start putting for sleeves and like the front and back and whatever. But this is like really, really nice. I've done a whole bunch of things on a 4mm needle, like both my other projects on 4mm needles, and my Tulsa was on a 4 as well, and then my socks were on like a 1.5 or 1.25, so teeny tiny. But finding this nice because it moves faster than other things have for me, and also lace is very potato chippy. Like you want to finish the whole 8-row repeat before you stop for the day or whatever. And I just love lace. Like honestly, if you look at some of my projects, I knit a lot of lace, and like one of my favorite things last year was a lace leaf pattern hat. I think it was called the foliage hat, and I knit it in like a bright autumn yellow for a friend of mine for Christmas last year. And honestly, I'm definitely gonna knit it again. But yeah, this one's kind of taking my focus and my heart right now. It's just so fun, and it's helping to distract me from, like I mentioned, our poor sick puppy. So I've also mentioned that I am a crocheter, and my only whip currently in the crochet realm of things is, so I'm knitting, I am crocheting it's called the Summer Fade Hexie Blanket. Crossing the Summer Fade Hexie Blanket with a temperature blanket. And I'm using Latin brand Heartland yarn in like some of my favorite national park colors. So this is White Sands. The one I'm currently working with, I'm going to all of the white sands first before I go on to whatever else. So the summer fade is on a blog. So it's a free pattern on that blog, but you like get ads and things, right? I don't know what the pattern costs if you were to buy it, but most of Heartland yarn goes for around $6 a skein, and so far I've only used white sands, so that's $6. But this is my current crochet with. It's a really fun pattern. It's so fun. Anyway, that. And then finally, as far as sewing projects go, I'm working on a quilt in a bag, and I'll like put up pictures. But the quilt is called the Sparkle More quilt by Megan Mortensen and Melissa Mortensen. Sorry, the Sparkle More pattern by Melissa Mortensen. And I started working on that last year, and it's not a quilt, it's like a sew a month block of the month. There we go. It's a block of the month project. So and it actually was for the month the year before that, but I bought it last year, and I started sewing it last year, and then we moved and we got a puppy, and I just had a lot going on, so I kind of put it on the back burner until this summer, and I started picking it up again, and I'm currently working on the final of the 10 blocks for the full pattern. And then since it's a 12-month, like the next month block is like a bunch of smaller blocks to the background, and then you sew it all together, and then you do, I believe there's probably a border. So that's what I'm doing next. And it's really pretty, and it's in fabric that goes with the Sparkle More. I believe it's sparkle. And the other thing I'm making is another version of this bag. Only it's denim, a dot denim that is left over from the skirt that I made to go with my Twisted Tank photos. So I have that, and it's not quite the same size. It's kind of a more like I just took the pattern and scraps and put them together. But it's all in works right now. It's not very interesting, right? So that's all I have to share today. Except what am I wearing? This is not that interesting either, honestly, but this was my first ever garment pattern that I ever knit, and this is the Lion Brand Wheat Tweed in the color Dutch Blue, and I got this to knit the October sweater maybe, and then I realized I'm not a sweater pullover girly. I very much prefer cardigans, button downs. I like to be able to switch my clothes around a lot. Like I wear a lot of dresses with cardigans or t-shirts and leggings with cardigans. So I decided to knit a free pattern, and it's called the Boyfriend Cardigan, I believe, and I will link it. And then I did a lot of little alterations to make it the way I wanted it. Like did some increases to make it a little bit baggier. And it's my first ever raglan, so I'm not sure I will do another raglan because it doesn't sit where I feel like it should. But aside from that, it's a really nice cardigan. Oh, and I probably won't very much more acrylic. It's like it's really washable and nice and stuff, but it's itchy. So I don't think I will do acrylic again. So that is the end of all I have to share today, actually. So thank you so much for spending this time with me. I hope you enjoyed yourself. I hope you got some knitting done or some crochet or maybe, I don't know, cutting out some patterns. So leave me a comment below and tell me what you're working on. I'd love to hear about it. I'd love to chat in the comments. Until then, I'm Jennifer. You can find me at HearHerHands on HearHerHands on Instagram, here on Ravelry. I think. Thursdays, please give us a like, a comment, a subscribe.